Gracias, Señor, por este día que nos diste para estar aquí y para hablar de tu palabra. Gracias porque
So so last week we did, wow, it's really loud. Last week we did pretty much chapter 1, or chapter 6, 1 through 12. And so what was the first parts that we actually did in chapter 6? You guys remember? What was the main thing? Eric, go for it.
It was talking about Noah.
Not yet. Before
Well,
that.
Evil in the world.
Evil in the
Yeah.
world before that. Demigods? Okay, a little bit before that. What's it? Yeah.
Chapter 6?
Yeah.
We
Testing,
started
testing,
the whole
okay.
thing because they said
What's the title of the ones that were like the demigods? As far as above them.
Nephilims.
Nephilims are the ones that become demigods. But what is the title above them that created the Nephilims?
Elohim.
Elohim? No, yeah. But what was the title of the Elohims?
Sons of God.
Sons of gods. Yes. So sons of gods, right? As far as yeah, I know. Yeah, you guys are like going like way back. No. So we had the sons of gods that pretty much come down and they attempt to have like the second chance to say, hey, we're gonna try to make humans become more like God, right? So they remember they had the first time where the serpent came down, right, and tried to give like wisdom by doing the tree of good and evil. But now they're coming down and saying, well, you took away humans' eternal life. What we're gonna try to do is give humans back eternal life. And that's what they try to do with the sons of God. They try to make humans closer to God by creating this super powerful, pretty much human beings as far as the Nephilim. Okay, so that's one thing, right? Now, the next thing we pretty much talked about was what did the Lord see from the world?
Evil.
Evil, okay. And did he like it? Did he not like it?
He said he regretted.
He regretted. Okay, but what's the other word we use though besides regret? Because we can't say that.
Disappointment.
Huh? Yeah, disappointment,
Disappointment.
sadness. Yeah, he was having a tough time as far as just watching his creation just fall apart, right? So, and what did he say that he's going to do as far as with the humans, right? We talked about the 120 years, but before we talked about the 120 years, he said something about life. What was it? The world's going to be destroyed? But what else? So animals, okay.
Oh, it was the order of the creation. Like
Order of creation?
the things.
Okay. Okay. But he also said that pretty much.
Not the right answer.
It's okay. No, it's okay. I'm happy because you guys were like paying attention last week. It's good. But like his face. No, because remember we talked about before. He said that like his spirit is in us, right? And we actually use pretty much what's it called? His breath to keep us alive. And he said that he's gonna try to take that breath away from us, right? And just because like he was saddened and he was trying to figure out what to do as far as how he's actually gonna go about with us here on this earth, right? So he was going to pretty much destroy this whole earth, destroy all the people here, wipe everything over, pretty much. But what did he see that pretty much like gave him like this, gave humanity a second chance as far as living?
He found favor
Found
Or-
favor
in Noah.
in Noah. Yep. So that was pretty much what we read, right? What?
I want to say Jonah.
Wait.
Oh, you said Jonah? Oh,
Hey,
because we read it
is-
so
Is
much.
it supposed to be on, or do you have it blacked out?
It's blank.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, so that's all we read, right? Between 1 through 12 in a nutshell as far as what we read. So now we're going to kind of continue on. So let's keep going. So here we go. Genesis 6:13 through 16. So usually we start this way. We're going to start on the back, but the other side. Just read one verse. That's it. What's that?
You should give her the Jesus lloró first.
Oh, there's like the 2-3 words. Yeah. All right, you got it, Ozzy?
I got it. All right.
Go for it.
Thing on?
Yeah, it's on.
All right. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I am surely going to destroy both them and the earth. Do I keep going? Like the whole thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So make yourself an ark of cypress wood. Make rooms in it and coat it with pitch inside and out. This is how you are to build it. The ark is to be 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, and 30 cubits high. Make a roof for it, leaving below the roof of an opening 1 cubit high all around. Put a door in the side of the ark and make lower, middle, and upper decks.
Yeah. So we can see just from right here, right? So we have from verse 13, he's talking about one thing, but from verse 14 down, he's pretty much giving us a blueprint. God's giving a blueprint to Noah and saying, I'm going to tell you pretty much how to build this. Just build what I'm telling you to build, and you should be pretty much fine. And he's pretty much trying to build the actual ark itself. And so let's go back to verse 13, right? It says one of the words that kind of stood out to me was destroy, right? Which is pretty much he's saying that he's going to destroy both earth and humanity itself. But looking at this word, it's kind of like saying that he's going to like annihilate, get rid of, everything on this earth. But what we actually see, a lot of people always try to change, destroy, and actually try to say that this is actually a judgment. God's giving a judgment to the earth, right? And what we see though here, it's like this judgment that he's giving is actually called like the flood judgment, right? Which is pretty much he's going to judge the world by the flood, right? And he only has pretty much favor for like one family, right? So verse 14, right? Says, so make yourself an ark of cypress wood and make rooms and coats and pitch inside of it, all that stuff, right? So what we're talking about here is pretty much a sacred thing that's going to protect Noah and his family, right? And so what other sacred things that we talk about back in like the early chapters in Genesis? We kind of took a little bit of time on this one. The tree? Okay. You're spot on, yeah, you're spot on. This is tree. So the tree of life. No, it's okay. Yeah. So the tree of life was actually a very, very sacred thing. We talked about last time saying that, God was there, his spirit was there, everybody was there as far as like that Adam and Eve could pretty much have this communion with God really close enough with him. So now that like we had before, it was, the Garden of Eden, you had the tree of life inside, and it was a very sacred thing. Now you're going to have like this new Eden that's going to pretty much help and keep Noah's family pretty much safe while they're out and pretty much be in the flood. So this is another thing as far as they have like this sacred thing that's going to keep them safe, and God's going to be there with them as far as to protect them, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I thought you had something you're like nodding your head. Okay. But yeah, so like I said before, the Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve, they were cast out of disobedience, but now God is going to talk to Noah and say, build an ark, create it, it's going to be a sacred place, and now it's like this wooden, pretty much Eden. So if we're just going to get a little bit more as far as nerd out about the cubic feet and all that stuff. So a cubic is pretty much 18 inches long. Oh, you didn't know it? Oh, you're doing like this.
Yeah, it's because we read in my engineering class that
Yeah.
it was like from the tip of the ruler's finger to like this.
Oh, okay, so pretty much like your whole arm, you're saying, is like, okay, yeah,
Measured what?
a cubic.
Oh.
Because they didn't have like rulers or anything, so they're just saying like, hey, like before you used to say like, hey, this is like an inch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So yeah, so if we have those details as far as saying that what is a cubic, then we can say on this next slide, how big is really Noah's Ark? And which, we all kind of understand it's a really big piece, but we'll just see it right here, right? So the width is pretty much 2 school buses. The height is pretty much 3 giraffes stacked upon each other, which is pretty tall. And the length is 1.5 football fields. So if you actually were to say, well, how much space is in there, you would have to take up at least 483 semi-trailers, which is a lot of stuff.
The volume?
Yeah, the volume. So if you put like 483 trailers pretty much stacked each other and make it just as this, it's a lot of space. So just kind of want to throw that in there as far as just a comparison so you guys can see pretty much how big it was. So a lot of times people say, well, how did you fit so many animals in there? Like if you ever try to walk a football field, it takes forever. So I wouldn't do it right now, honestly. Okay, so let's go to verse 17 and 18. Eric.
I'm going to bring flood waters on the earth to destroy all life under the heavens. Every creature that has the breath of life in it, everything on earth will perish. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you will enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife, and your sons' wives with you.
Yeah. So what is this saying? If we were saying before with Genesis 1, we have creation where he creates the skies, creates the heavens, separates everything over, moves the waters around, and we pretty much have like this balance as far as on this earth, right? And he says he creates the animals, everything else. Then what is chapter 6:17 doing? If all that stuff before was creating it, making everything peaceful, what is 17 doing? Taking everything away. It's complete opposite, right? And so a lot of people try to call this like decreation. Instead of creation back in chapter 1, you have decreation right here, which is pretty much saying it's going to take everything away. And look at the some of the words that it's saying, right? Some of the words that it's saying is the breath of life in it, right? So if we go back to what's the breath of life, we talk about how that's actually what we need to keep ourselves alive. And so I think we talked about it last time as far as nefesh, and you're trying to figure out what was nefesh. And so, yeah, your flesh is nefesh, but at the same time, it's nefesh is with your soul and your body itself. So if you just take away the spirit as far as like that energizing thing that keeps you alive, the breath, then you just pretty much become just flesh, and that's all you are. So it's going to take all this breath away from everything that's out there, animals and humans alike. So does that make sense so far? So we have this complete opposite thing. So it's really, dramatic here as we come to verse 17. So, decreation, yep. And so now on verse 18, pretty much you have so one thing I kind of want to talk about a little bit was actually the covenant. Do you guys know what a covenant is? What are you laughing over there? Go ahead.
You can ask that.
All right, does anybody know?
Like a promise.
The promise? Okay, yeah, it's actually a really good one.
A compromise with God.
A compromise?
Like no, like. Yeah.
Compromiso?
Huh?
Like you're trying to say in Spanish or you're saying in
No,
English?
I guess so.
Because a compromise would be like a little different.
Yeah, no,
Com-
I was gonna say compromise, but that's why I said promise.
Yeah.
Thinking
But yeah,
covenant,
it's a
like-
promise. Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
Like a contract. Yeah, like a contract.
Yeah, contract,
between,
yeah.
Like me and Edenia, if I were to like sell her something, like that's a contract. Like I'm
Mhm.
gonna sell you something, Edenia, you're gonna pay me this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like a contract.
Yeah, so pretty much with that, right, what kind of covenant, what kind of promises God make? Like what's the first ones that he actually makes? Not your question. We see it right here. It's a covenant. So what was the first time actually God saying that he's going to actually build a covenant with somebody?
Noah.
It's right here. Yeah, it's Noah. It's okay. I'm not trying to trick you guys. I'm just trying to say this is the first time we're seeing that he's actually saying to somebody. No, no. Oops. Oops, I went too far. Where's my mouse? Okay. Let's try to scroll down over here on this side. So, and what I'm trying to say on this one, right, God makes a promise, right, and he expects his partner to fulfill this commitment. So God says, I'm going to promise something to you. Now, I expect something in return for you to do for me. So that way it's kind of it's kind of lining up to be the same. But when we actually see right here with Noah, what is God promising? Life, yeah. And what is he asking in return? It's a trick question. He doesn't ask for anything. So this is the first time. So in this covenant, God just says, I'm going to promise, as far as for you to be safe, protected, faithful.
When you said that, I was about to say, does God ever expect something back from us? I was gonna
With
ask
Noah,
you.
he's not. Yeah, with Noah, he's not saying anything as far as hey, I expect you to do X, Y, Z, and therefore, if you break this promise, then this is no more. I'm not going to be with you, right? But when you get with as far as you start seeing other covenants that he actually makes, so he makes another covenant with Abraham, right? So what does he promise to Abraham? A son, right? And then so he says you're gonna have a big family, and he also says land, right? But what does he ask back in return? Sacrifice? No. He just says pretty much just do what's right. Just ask you to do what's right and train your family to pretty much exactly right. Yeah. Now, when you get with another covenant that's next, actually is with Israel. What does God promise them as far as the land of Israel? Yeah, somewhat. Yeah. No. Yeah, afterwards. So pretty much whenever they pretty much get what's it called out in the 40 years and everything else, right? He tries to say that he's going to bless them. He's going to bless Israel and say, as long as you keep my commandments, then I'm going to pretty much keep you guys safe and everything's fine. I'm going to bless you guys. No big deal, right? It's going to be great. But they don't do that, right? And it's fine. So now the next one, this is the last one as far as the covenant, is with King David, right? And what does God promise King David? So, he said pretty much that one of his pretty much descendants would be what actually comes over and actually brings peace and blessings, right? Right. So exactly right. Yeah. And so if we go back to like Noah, Abraham, Israel, let's just go with Abraham, Israel, and King David, right? Do any of those actually keep their promise with God? As far as their commitment to say, we're going to do this, you promised us we're going to keep us safe, and we're going to have this commitment with you as far as to do what you told us to do. Do they do that at all? Yeah, as far as Abraham, Israel, and King David? Exactly right. They always fell. Yeah, exactly. But then you have this covenant next that's out from King David, that's Jesus, right? And he actually brings the blessing from the family. He actually is faithful, like what Israel was supposed to do, and he is a line of King David, right? So he has everything that pretty much God was asking for as far as with the promise, and he actually comes down, and as God becomes human, right? And to show humans how to actually have a partnership with God, how to actually live to be a true, faithful human being here on this earth. So kind of like with all those covenants that he makes, even though they all fall apart, Jesus comes in and actually says, hey, even though we all fell before, with my covenant as far as me being here, I get to restore humanity itself. So just kind of want to talk a little bit about covenant, see if that makes sense to you guys. You got anything on that one? Oh, okay. You're very quiet today. Okay. All right, next. All right, so it's Matthew. You got Genesis 6:19 to 22.
You are to bring into the ark 2 of the living creatures, male and female, to keep them alive with you. 2 of every kind of bird, of every kind of animal, and every kind of creature that moves along to the ground will to come to you, to kept alive. You are to take every kind of food that is to be eaten and store it away as food for you and for them. Noah did everything just as God committed to.
Yeah, so, and like I said before, I mean, we talked about Noah's Ark being a wooden, pretty much Eden. And if we see right here, all the pictures that we're looking at is all these animals, all this fruit, all this food that's actually going to be in the ark. It's just creating pretty much a newer version of an Eden itself. And so, question would be, why do they actually need 2 of every kind of animal? So they can multiply. Yeah, exactly. And we go back to Genesis 1 and 2, it's pretty much talking about, yeah, you got to multiply. And that's one of God's things that's pretty much saying. And that's what you need these to pretty much be here, is to pretty much make more life. So, and like we're talking about right here a little bit too, is that outside the boat, everything that's actually going to be living, right, all their lives are going to be taken away, pretty much. But if you're inside the boat, yes, go ahead.
Weird question, but
Go ahead.
what happened to their bodies?
Which bodies?
The people who died.
You talking about like floating or
They were-
something?
Yeah, exactly. Like, were they just floating around?
Maybe.
Do you just find a dead body
they just-
like in
Yeah, they just like poke it.
the edge of the beach?
Yeah. No? Yeah, they just don't really give that detail as far as like what's happening, like where they're gonna go. But it does say later on, as far as in chapter 7, how tall the water got. So it's not like they could really go anywhere. I mean, if you ever see like a body, what it does after a while, it just floats until later on it finally absorbs so much water that it just sinks eventually. Yeah, I mean it's raining. It's gonna be raining later on. We're gonna see for how long, you know? Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if that's that much water, I mean, eventually, I mean, it's not gonna float anymore. So, but yeah, I mean, just that was fairly quick as far as for chapter 6. We can start moving into chapter 7. You got anything on chapter 6? Your quietness is freaking me out. Okay. We should. Okay, so let's go to. Oh, Daisy has something right here. What'd you have right here, Daisy? You don't remember putting this?
No, I didn't know we were going to 7.
Oh, okay.
I don't have anything on 7.
Oh, okay. Do you want to read this then, or? So let's see. The biblical authors had a deep reverence of the Spirit as the giver, the sustainer of life. If God is the one who gives life breath, he is also the one who can take it away. So that's what we looked at in chapter 6. So in Genesis 6, spiritual beings tried to restore eternal life to humans in their corrupt states. This is the origin of the theme that we will see with more clarity in the story of Babylon, first named in Genesis 11. The flood and undoing of creation returns the earth into a similar state in Genesis 1:2, where the God Spirit Ruach is hovering over the chaotic waters, ready to bring order to creation. The decreation of the flood ends with a recreation story.
That's pretty much the takeaway from.
Yeah, it's this whole summary, actually.
That
Good
was-
job, Daisy, with your little...
Yeah,
little
I
snippet.
did it like last week, so I don't remember putting it on there.
All right, next. What's this? Are you showing like parallels between like the chapters? What? Yeah, ratios.
I don't know, guys. I did this like 2 weeks ago.
It's okay. We can skip it. It looks like you're just trying to say the correlation between like how things, kind of like you did it like in Daniel, or was it in Daniel when you actually showed the correlation between these chapters and this chapter actually go hand in hand? Looks like you're trying to do the
I
same.
think this is for later on in Genesis.
Oh, okay. Let's skip that. Oh, we saw this last time. All right, here we go. Chapter 7. All that stuff, don't worry about it. We'll look at it later.
I mean, it's
Do you want to wait? It's 8:05. Huh? Oh, Sierra wants to go? Estrella wants to go?
the only thing.
Oh, she wants to read. She wants to read.
The only thing I want to say is.
Go ahead.
So on the only interesting thing that maybe you guys didn't see was on Genesis 17, verse 17. Go back to it.
6:17?
Yeah, so he says, I'm going to bring flood waters. So the only thing that I remember from Genesis 1 is that whenever he had the waters, and he separated the waters from the waters. So when he was doing in Genesis 1 is he separated the waters from the waters. But what he's doing here in Genesis 6 is he's collapsing those two things together again to bring that flood, and that's why it's called flood waters, because he's unseparating those two that he separated in Genesis 1.
We'll just do like a couple quick slides on chapter 7. And we'll stop like in a little bit. Okay, so, because Estrella wants to go. Okay, Estrella, you got this. She said...
The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate. And also even all, oh my gosh. Also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and will wipe from the face of the earth every light creature I have made." And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him.
Yeah. Okay. So we go back to verse 1, right? We talk about how in chapter 6, God creates a covenant with Noah and his family, right? So we're seeing this as far as like God's pretty much telling him, go in there, your whole family. And he's pretty much letting him know, like we talked about with Enoch too, was why did he pick Noah? And it says right here, the righteous, they found only him to be the righteous of his generation. As far as in this time period, he was the only one that actually was righteous enough to actually be pretty much saved, right? And then we have 2, and then, so what's actually, on chapter 6, when we actually look at it, pretty much they're talking about the animals, and they say 2 of every kind, but now it actually says a male and its mate. And I think in Hebrew actually says it to be like its actual husband and his wife, as far as like for these animals, like they're a pair. And so it's actually kind of funny that the animals are like the way the Hebrew is actually translating it to, as far as they're kind of together in a marriage. Okay, so verse 4, right? So we see in verse 4, 7 days from now, I will send rain on this earth for 40 days and 40 nights, right? And so what Daisy was saying earlier too, weird that you had this put down on your side too. Genesis 6:17, I'm going to bring flood waters and to destroy all life under the heavens, every creature that has living breath in it. So he's going to send rain on this earth to wipe everything that's living breath, right? So when we think about the rain that's being sent, sometimes people just think of like drizzling, but I remember like the one time actually like rained so much in one day here, everything flooded. Do you guys remember back in April 2016? It was like tax day floods is what it was called.
Okay. Hmm.
You guys remember?
It's too specific, bro.
Too specific?
Yeah.
Okay, a couple years ago, it rained so much that everything flooded.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you got that one?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
He said April 16 of 1982.
Yeah. But like, okay, so
Tuesday at 5 p.m.
yeah. But in that one day, like in Tomball, for instance, where we're at, right, it rained for at least, in certain areas, it was 18 to 24 inches in one day. That's a lot. I mean, that's why everything flooded. There's just so much rain that they couldn't do anything as far as to levy the waters. That's why everything flooded. And in other areas, it actually was like 50 inches. Like if you went back and looked at 610 or whatever, everything was just flooded. In one day, it was just like crazy. And so if we think about like how crazy water got like that, as far as just one day, it just went bananas, right? Imagine what it's going to do whenever, as far as for Noah, how much water can really be delivered. I mean, we just don't understand how much that actually can be dropped here on Earth. You had something?
Well, yeah, I do remember now. And second,
What?
Huh?
What?
No, I do remember because I was in school and like they locked us out or like locked us in.
Oh wait, I remember that too. I was with Abraham.
Yeah.
And we couldn't leave the school.
Yeah, it was
I
bad.
remember.
But
I have videos.
Do you remember?
I have videos.
Yeah.
it's kind of it's not about the rain, but why does it say clean animal and an unclean animal?
That's why the earth is being destroyed, right? Because it was like there was so much evil on the earth, so that's what he's wiping out. So along with humans, he's wiping out everything that's unclean, and that's why like whenever they do sacrifices, they have to have a clean. It's just a clean lamb. Like it has to be very sacred. It's whatever you're bringing into that ark. It has to be very clean.
Wait, but it says, take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal and a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal. So they're taking both,
Mm-hmm.
clean and unclean.
Yeah.
What does that mean though? Like,
That-
what are the unclean animals? The dirty puppies or something?
The dirty puppies.
Like monkeys, maybe.
What do you say?
She said like monkeys.
The monkeys? I'm not sure. Honestly, I couldn't tell you on that one. But like what Daisy's saying, nah, they clean it. Yeah, it's okay.
I beat you.
But I mean, like to what Daisy's saying earlier though too. Yeah, we should research it. Yeah. Yeah, you guys too. Thanks.
I finally beat you, dude.
You got me. It wasn't Adenia. It was Eric. It's gonna hurt me even more that it's Eric instead.
But clean, yeah,
Ah.
that's why I think clean.
Yeah.
It's like that's why nothing could go into like the tabernacle, like the very sacred place. Only certain thing. It has to be very, very specific, very clean.
yeah.
Unclean, I don't know.
But I mean, to go back to your point, right? I mean, there was a thing when they said that they would take a unclean and they'll throw everything into it, right? When it came to pretty much after when they had the tabernacle and they were trying to take everybody's sins away, and that's when they would sacrifice the lambs and everything else too, right? The way that they actually would.
So do you know, Vanessa, that they would? I know these two girls might remember, but they would have a lamb, and they would, in order for their sins to be taken away, to be able to go into this really like sacred place, they would give a sacrifice of an animal. But then, huh? And then they would have another one that they will also put their sins, and then they just cast it away. So maybe that's what it is. I can't remember though. Like they make it go out into the wilderness. They won't kill it. They will like make it send out to the wilderness. It's weird.
You know that one? I thought you knew that one.
No, he wasn't in our class.
No, but I mean, he has a lot of memory in it though.
Do you remember that one?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to get. Estella wanted to read. We let her read. All right. It's You want to stop here? Or you want to go to the next one? Stop here.
We need to find where these dirty animals came
So so that will be our first.
Yeah.
So that'll be our first conversation. Yeah, and then the second thing that I had was just what does again 7 mean? Because it's talking about 7 days and brings 7 pairs of kinds. So just what does 7 mean? So. So for you guys, like there's significance a lot in like numbers and and there's certain repetitive things. So the number 7 is very like important in the Bible or in Christianity. So sometimes we all know that, oh yeah, it's the 7th day God rested, but what is 7? Why is it so important?
So yeah,
So
figure out why 7 is
Even 40 days.
40 days. 40 days is another number.
It's mentioned
3
a
days is
lot.
also an important number.
yeah, because the
40
Yeah,
years in the
Moses-
wilderness.
Yeah, Moses kills, and he goes out for 40 years. He comes back, goes to Mount Sinai for another 40 days. Yeah,
And,
a
the,
lot of 40.
and then Jesus, and then Jesus
Yeah.
in the 40 days in the desert. So that's why we're saying like for all of us to just have a
Homework.
homework.
Did he fast for 40 days? Right?
Who?
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus?
He was fasting
Okay.
for the 40 days. Yeah, yeah. Whenever pretty much, yeah. Satan was out to tempt him. So okay, so homework. Find the dirty puppies or whatever you want to call them. So all you guys, and then find the references of 40. How many references are there? And what does that mean to you? Just to you. To you, to the Bible. How does it go to you, resonate to you? All right. Everybody good? What? You guys are random. All right, that's it. What? You're being so suspicious. Yeah, the freshwater, saltwater.
That came in and killed all the ones that weren't supposed to be alive.
But how do you know the freshwater mixed with saltwater? Why not just be all freshwater only? Oh.
But it never said anything about like you know how like in creation it'll say like the animals in the sea. But it doesn't say. All it says is every kind of animal and every kind of creature that moves along the ground. 2 of every kind of bird.
And the ones that fly too.
So it doesn't say anything about like sea creatures. How it did in like Genesis 1.
Turtles made it, bro.
Turtles
They're here today.
They held on to the ark.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
This is how the Ninja Turtles happened, guys.
Uh,